Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about sketches and the value that they hold within the industry. Um, I think sketches are a very integral part of the design process. I think it's just as important as research. The idea of sketches allows you to think, evolve, and design, and then repeat the process until you get to the final idea. Um, Oftentimes, I find that jumping into a computer without any sort of idea of where you're going is can take an enormous extra amount of time in completing a project. Whereas sketches, you can get a number of ideas, a lot of ideas very quickly if you just kind of write the framework or the idea of what you want on paper. Um, I always like to ask this question: can a sketch be worth $1 million? And I will say yes, because the example of this is that um, the merger between Citibank or Citicorp and Travelers Group was announced to the world in 1998. And corporate mergers happen frequently within any given year. And every time two new companies come together, they form one bigger and a new company, and they need to have logos and branding and all sorts of things made for them. So, for instance, Paula Scheer from Pentagram was invited to a meeting between these boards of trustees between these two organizations, and you know she quickly drew out the idea of this logo for the new merger between the two companies in a cocktail napkin within the first 10 minutes of the meeting. Um, Ultimately, it's a completely intellectual logo. It was a marriage between the umbrella and the word city to create the umbrella in the middle of the word. Um, and it seems simple, um, but the idea is that you know companies pay for people to go through the process to kind of work with it a little bit and to see what they can come up with and to come up with different ideas. Ultimately, um, the Citibank didn't really buy onto it. They liked it, but they said like, that can't be that easy. And so what else do you have? So Paula and her team spent a year making hundreds of variations of a new logo for the merger of these two companies. And they did different presentations. It's like, what about this one? What about this one? They said no, 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 no. They couldn't decide. But it wasn't until an ad agency used it um, slightly without permission, but they kind of used it in an advertisement for Citibank, and then it kind of just picked up from there. So the logo itself was about $1.5 million to produce, and that paid Paula and her team to go through the exercise, and that was part of the $10 million spent for the branding overhaul. So if you imagine all the logos that had to be replaced, signs, shirts, letterheads, business cards, all that, to change all of that cost about $10 million to overhaul. Um, but that's part of the branding. So a logo can be worth millions of dollars, and ultimately, it's worth billions of dollars to how much money that the company Citibank or Citi will actually generate from the point when they started with the new logo. So over time, a logo is a part about recognition and for customers to be able to say, hey, I know that company. I have interest in that company. I know I can get my money here. So they can instantly recognize the organization. Um, Sketches are very valuable between artists. This is an artist um, that created a poster for the band Pearl Jam, and the artist I believe was living in Georgia at the time, and Pearl Jam's all based in L.A. or Seattle, and the artist sent him this sketch through email and says, "This is what I'm thinking about your poster. It's not, here's the idea. You see the big P and the big J, and you see this person jumping over it. Maybe it's a motorcycle, and it looks like he has some flames up here, and somehow there's a White House in here, and so these are just ideas that this artist had, and the band said, okay, let's go for it. You make your artwork, and the artist created this. You can see it's very close to to not exact, but it's added some other things to it, like you know bigger flames over here. This became, instead of a motorcycle, became a John Deere tractor because they were playing in Montana. And this is a very politically motivated poster that this artist made, poking fun at, like the eagle and how it's kind of tearing a person's body apart. The White House is on fire. It's kind of going, falling to pieces. And so, the sketch, it's only being shown once for that poster for that band, but there's no way that this artist would have made this whole thing, and if the band said no, they would have wasted their time. So we put everything on sketch form so we get approval, and then we wait for what comes up, and then work from there. Another important or well-known case about sketches and ideas is in 1971. A student by the name of Carolyn Davis was at Portland State University studying to be an artist. They were underemployed, or another way of saying unemployed. They couldn't afford, painting supplies for their classes. Um, so the artist was actually, or the Carolyn was enrolled in a class that was being taught by Phil Knight. It was a business class, and Phil Knight owned this company called Blue Ribbon Sports at the time, and said like, "Hey, Carolyn, since you're an art student, could you make me a logo that has something to do with movement?" That was a quote. That was like all the information that she had. Um, Ultimately, in 1971, Knight settled on the swoosh after rejecting four other designs that Carolyn put up. And he said, "I don't love it, but it'll grow on me." And so basically, Carolyn said, "Here's five ideas I had," and the client chooses one of them, and that's part of the artist's responsibility is to make variations, um, to the design and see what will actually sell to the company. But ultimately, she at the time she got paid $35 uh, for this logo. If you adjust that for inflation, in 2018, it would be worth about $217. Um, and it's a steal. I mean, I think it's estimated that she worked about maybe 7 hours on it, so that's about $5 an hour. Um, it's like now it would be like $30 an hour, which is about the low end of a pay scale for a graphic designer these days. And she was, in many ways, you can see it's like she's robbed because she didn't understand the idea of like branding and trademark and all that kind of process that that Paula Shear understood. Yeah, your company's making big money, and you're gonna pay premium for the logo. But then this is a small company back in 1971. But Phil Knight, he was an upstanding guy. He's a business person. He recognized the value of the logo. In 1983, Knight presented Davidson with a diamond ring that was engraved with a swoosh and 500 shares in Nike stock. And which, over time, the stock has split several 32,000 into 32,000 shares. So it's grown in value. I haven't checked what the Nike stock is lately, but the last time I checked a while back, it was about $60 a share. So you can, multiply 60 times 332,000, you got about over $1 million now. So she got paid in her due much later, but nonetheless, she got what it's worth. And if we all know Nike, they sell billions of dollars of shoes every year. So, you know, that's just a small drop in the bucket to pay for, a brand. But ultimately, when you're sketching, I always like to use it as a time of just imagining things. And most of my sketches never see the light of day, after that because they just stay in the book and they're kind of failures, but you kind of have to kind of go through that process to find the gem or the thing that works. I always think about openness and imagination. Is just put it out there. If you think it's been done before, do it again just to say you did it, and you covered your bases. And that's the thing you want to avoid is, you don't want to disregard anything. You want to, just to document, say you did it. Don't omit anything. If it's a crazy idea, write it down because you never know where the idea may come out or where it may play. And then, don't have contempt. Just say like, oh, I've seen that or I've done this before. Just do it again. It's practice. So ultimately, you want to be able to use your sketches just to kind of exercise your mind and think. If you have questions, email me or drop in during a Zoom meeting and we can have a conversation. Thanks.